Okay, welcome back. Okay, back at the modelling bench. I just wanted to explain something before I went any further. Because I'm building this ship in different bits and pieces, there's a lot of pages where some things are done and some things aren't done. So what I generally do, just to explain it, if I've done an item, I tick it off. If there's different, and I've started to even do the finer ones as well, but like this one over here, I'll try and zoom in a bit more there. I've done some things, but some things I haven't, so I just circle them to know that I'm going to come back and do those. This is why these two are ticked up here. So before I go on to the next one, just tick this one off and that one off. So just at a glance looking back, I can see which parts are actually being done. Yeah, so I've marked them off there, so there's no real need to mark them there. This one here was only about the mast, which we've done that anyway, so yeah, let's move on. Okay, looks like we're moving on to another superstructure, so I'll grab the parts and get them ready. So it looks like we need C19 as the main piece, C8 and C7. Okay, I have the C sprue. Just give me a second and we'll work these out. So there's the main one. This is C19. Let's spin that around. I'll come back. Okay, we have all our pieces off the sprue, and as you can see, they all just need a bit of cleaning up on these edges here. So what we'll do, we will come back after these are all cleaned up. See you in a minute. As you can see, I've cleaned this up with a sander, and it's left a bit of sandy mark just in here. Don't forget to come back in with the buffer and buff them out. As you can see now, it's been sanded and then buffed, and you wouldn't even know it's been sanded. That's pretty much what you're looking for. Okay. Okay, now all the parts are being cleaned up. We'll just see how they fit. Rub my finger along the edges, just in case I can feel anything there. Just let's get it all ready to go. I started to dry fit this, and I don't know if you can see it. This is a flat piece, and yet there's a huge gap just here. And I'm like, what's going on here? And even here, it runs off. And then I picked up the piece and looked at it and thought, wow, check out the bend in that. So now I'm going to have to try and straighten this somehow and get the bend back out of it, so that when I put this piece on, it's actually back in line again to put the other piece back on. I'll come back. I'm having a lot of trouble with this because it just doesn't quite want to fit properly. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do this in sections to really, because even that there, so I'm going to have to do it in sections from here and then try and pick up these pieces as well. And then I've got to try and pick up the back. I've got it mostly all squared off, but I'm still not quite happy with that gap just in here because of the way it's all bent. So give me a minute, I'll come back after I fix this piece up. So pretty much what I've done, I started to glue here, and because I've had to bend this to the buggery, I'll work my way back this way and then fix this up, and I'll glue this last section down here last. So I've got this section all glued up, as you can see now that it's strong across here. When I fold that in, so I glue that bottom bit, and then I can fold this section in and close off that gap. It should be back to normal again. Okay, I've just glued this section here, waiting for that to go off. So when I pull it up in line, I can close that gap off there. So I'll just come back in a minute. Okay, I just finished cleaning all that up. So that edge now, the one across here, I'm very happy with. It looks okay. I did give it a light sand and a buff just to clean it up a bit better. So now I'll work on fixing up that split here and closing it off. Okay, here it is now. The gap down there has been closed off, and I'm pretty happy with that side of it now. I think what I'll do the same is on the other side. The only part I'm really not happy about is pretty much that section just there. I don't know why, there's a very small gap, but undercoat will fill that. Okay, I'll do the next section. There you go. Here we have the same problem on this side, so I'll just have to bend that back up and hold it until it goes off, and yeah, I'll come back in a minute. So that's all together now on both sides. I've just given it a little bit of a clean up at the same time. The gap is no longer there and the floor is no longer bent. I don't know why it was bent so badly though, because I really had to bend that plastic to get it back into some sort of line. But anyway, that's back together now. What it needs, because it is under a bit of pressure, it needs to go off. So I'm going to let this go off for like half an hour before I do anything else to it. Okay, now half an hour has passed. This thing has really gone hard now, and it's all right, ready to go for the next one. The reason I gave it half an hour is I find with that Tamiya extra thin cement, even though yes it does tack off straight away, it's still a little pliable for quite some time afterwards. So on stuff like this that was already stressed, if you just leave it for an extra half an hour so the actual plastic goes hard as well, it goes off alright. So yeah, anyway, pretty happy with the way that's come out now, even though it was warped. So we'll get on with the next bit in a second. There it is, cleaned up and ready to go. Okay, here's one of the next pieces already taken off and cleaned up, and I'll get on with the next pieces and I'll come right back. So I've just quickly taken the next piece off, and I've only dabbed it with glue only in one spot, just till I sort of get the rest of these sorted out. So as I do them one by one, I'll quickly come back in and just show you what's going on. As I'm cutting all these pieces off, and before I add them, I always clean every piece before I add it. Just, it's all these little bits that make all the difference. I tell you, that last piece I just put on, this piece here, that was quite fiddly. I'm glad I did it off camera, because it would have done your head in. Anyway, it's on. Now, it's only temporarily on, just in a few little dabs. and then once I get all these pieces together, I'll go back over it and re-glue it all properly. Now there's the next piece on, and these are a little difficult to get them right, and again I'm only really dabbing them on just to get them together. Anyway, I'll continue on, and this is why I really waited until I glued the whole lot down, because while I have glued just the edges here, I've still got some movement into what I can do. So, and the main reason I'm really worried was that piece there. So I didn't know where it needed to go. So now that I got some movement, I can go in and close that up. I'll do that right now. Now that I've closed that edge off there, which is a join, I can now go through and finish off the rest of it and glue it all down. I'll put the last side on first before I do that, and then I'll go through and readjust it all. Now I've got the last piece on, because I only just barely dabbed all of these corners here, I'll go through and button up the whole lot now underneath and make sure it's all secure. Okay, I've just finished gluing all this back up all around on the inside and on each join inside as well, all to the bottom. Just gave it a bit of a buff around the outside. As you can see, it looks pretty good. It's all cleaned up, ready to go. And I guess we'll move on to the next section. There it is there. Give me a good look. Okay, so this next section, this next bit is basically saying that I need to put this piece and this piece together, like so. Glad that went together well, it's the first time I've done it. And then I've got to try and build this back section in at the same time. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry fit it all first, because it's getting just a tad fiddly now, and we'll see how it goes. We must be getting somewhere close to the end, because this sprue really doesn't have too much left on it. I mean, I've got a couple other empty sprues as well, but yeah, this one's almost done. Okay, so I got that other part taken off and cleaned up. So pretty much we just need to put the top on there, which goes together pretty good. And then this has to somehow go, just raise that up a bit. Somehow go on here and in here with the two pieces in there together, like, well, actually went together pretty good. Just need to push that down, push that in, a couple little nudges here and there, and she'll go in. Anyway, I'll glue that and come back. Well, even though this is not glued, this is a pretty good fit all the way around. I'm still a little bit apprehensive about gluing it down, because I'm still waiting on this floor just to come, but this is not really the main deck, so I'm pretty sure any deck that doesn't have a wood grain in it, it should be okay. So will I risk it? That is the question. If I glue that down, and this was the deck that was all bent before, so it's come up pretty darn good now and straight. I think I'm gonna just glue it. Okay. How do I glue this? Good question. We might start off with this section here. Might even do this one on camera. Look at that. we'll zoom in. We'll get just a dab right there, and it wicked across already. And then, because I'm happy with the dry fit, and what we'll do is we'll put another dab just there. It's pretty good. Then we'll put another dab just there, and I think there. I want to stay away from that edge just for the moment, just so I can readjust it again in a minute. I'll just hold it down. Alright, that's been held down long enough. We'll turn it around. We don't really want to risk gluing any of this yet. So we'll turn it around very carefully. And we'll just give this side a bit of treatment as well. Yeah. It wicked in there nicely. Very good. I don't think I'll go any closer because I really don't want glue in there. Okay, now that that's all glued up, pretty solid there, we only have one more piece to contend with. That is this one here. So what I think we might do, we still have a few gaps. If I zoom in, see what I mean by the gaps? So we still have a couple of gaps here and here. This side not so much, so we could probably get away with gluing this side. Sorry about that. Get away with gluing this side and then come back and do the other side. Hang on. As you can see, this side is really not that bad, and this side is just a little bit blown out. So because this is going to be the problem side, we will do this one, and let's see how we go with gluing that. It's a little difficult to hold actually. So generally get it squashed in to where exactly where I want it, and I just put a little bit just to start it off. And the main reason I put a little bit is when my fingers are there hanging onto it, it can wick through, and well, you all know what happens then. See that? It's just done it again. So while it's still wet, I'll just fluffy. I'll come back to that. Anyway, it's a risk you take. So now I suppose, because this is all one piece, I'm going to have to put just a dab down here as well. Try and get it in the camera. Just hang on to it for a second. Just wait for it to hold. Alright. Just zoom. Okay, so apart from where it grabbed me, I'm pretty happy with that. It just needs just ever so much cleaning. Just a little sand on the insert, just where it got me. And then we will do this side pretty much the same way. Now this side has got a couple of, well, cracks or leaks if you like. So we're going to try and do the same with this one, which is somehow hold it to close them up and level, just like that. I'll try and zoom in. Hang on. Like that. I've got it now, so while I've got it, I don't really want to let it go. And I'll just dab that, and that should hang on to the corner just enough so I can let go. It's not going to take much because there really isn't that much on there. And just readjust the corners. Alright, so that's that bit. As you can see, I just got to nudge that piece in. So while we're here, we might just do that. That little bit of light leak there in the corner. So we'll do that here. And then, very quickly, while it's still wet, just nudge that together. Like so. I know it's hard to see while I'm on the camera. It's going to stay closed. It is. Again, wicked through just a little bit. So I'll have to go through and clean up those corners. Now this one, I suppose the only one I really have to close that up is just to give that a good squeeze, which maybe because I glued that, it just pulled it in. Well, that actually turned out pretty good. Because that was wet, and when I squeezed it, it pulled it in. So if I put just another drop just on here, give it a squeeze. That's it. That's really closed up now. Hope you got all that on the camera. I just hope it was a mistake gluing it on, because that's not coming off anytime soon. Alright, I'll just quickly clean that up just off camera and then I'll come back. Now if you're wondering how I clean these up, I generally just grab the knife and just run it on the edge ever so lightly and take any little furry bits off. This section on the bottom should be okay. It's probably this side here where it got me with the glue. Again, just taking that excess glue off. And even on that side there, it's hard to see, I know. Get the brush. And as you can see, she's pretty clean now. Just do a bit more cleaning. That edge came up fantastic. In actual fact, we didn't even drop any glue in there. I might just put just a tad in there. Just a little tiny bit. There. nothing there. She ain't going nowhere. So again, I just spotted it. It's just a little tiny bit of glue here. I'll just scrape that off. Looks a little messy when you do it like this, with all the little furry bits. But then you take all the little furry bits off. It looks pretty good. Just a little hint there. Alright, that is looking pretty good. Considering it was a little bit bent when we started off, and there's quite a few pieces in this, really. Just a little hint of here needs a little tiny touch up. I'll just get that with the yeah, I'm a little fussy, only because I want this to look seriously really good. So I know it takes a little more time than normal, but the end result, when you clean everything up and take your time putting it together, it really is pretty good. So, and this will actually make painting and masking and the whole job a whole lot easier, because there won't be no dags hanging off it. So anyway, so just putting that aside for 1 second, we've pretty much done this one, all of this. We've done all of this. Again, all the little bits and pieces I'm leaving off, and they will all be painted separately. So really, this section here is pretty much all done, apart from all the lights and bits and pieces. Alright, how we going there? 28. Alright, well I think we might end it here, and yeah, we'll just have another quick look at how we went. Just zoom in. There it is, all done. That should look pretty darn good on the ship. Alrighty. Okay, well, I'm going to call it there, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.